Crafting an opening scene is an art in and of itself. You can have a scene that offers a mystery,
Are you watching closely?
or you can have a scene that puts you right in the middle of the action. But then, ever so often, there comes a movie that does none of this. It opens like a page into your everyday life. Nothing complicated, nothing dramatic, just simple. And it is this simplicity that makes me want to talk about the opening scene from the Garden of Words, which quite simply is one of the best opening scenes I have ever come across. The movie begins with an establishing shot, ripples in a pond produced by a delicate drizzle, birds chirping in the background as the camera moves vertically towards a reveal. But the shot cuts to another location that shows a moving train, a different ambience, a complete contrast to the shot that came before it. Then we cut back to the same pond, a calm ambience, but now in a different perspective. A tree branch grazing the surface of the pond, a shot that will throughout the movie serve as a reminder to the passing of seasons. And now, Takao, the protagonist, starts to narrate.
Until I entered high school 2 months ago, but I didn't know anything.
The scene then cuts back to the train again, and almost poetically, he begins to describe the methodical world of the city.
Smell of mothballs clinging to someone's suit, like a ghost.
Every shot as purposeful as the last, every word carefully crafted for the occasion.
Bodies, warm, pushing up against my back.
Until we arrive at the reveal of the protagonist. Takao, a teenager, looks up to the sky. It continues to rain. Takao confesses his love for the rain.
When I was little, the sky was closer, so much closer. That's why I like the rain.
And then he opens his umbrella and walks away. Another establishing shot to emphasize the mayhem of the city, followed by a contrasting close-up shot of raindrops falling into little puddles. Takao enters a park. A close-up shot focuses solely on his feet, his shoes walking rhythmically on a rain-soaked wooden bridge. Then an establishing shot to set up the environment, a park covered in thick foliage, away from the madness of the city. A shot to indicate Takao's joy to be there, in a light drizzle, expressed through nothing but body language, which then cuts to the camera sweeping across the screen, a pan that discloses what the protagonist sees. A wide angle reveals a small structure away in the distance, which transitions into a close-up, panning across a pair of shoes. Takao stops walking, once again accentuated by his shoes. The next shot reveals a woman who suddenly notices Takao. They lock eyes for some time, until he finds a spot on the bench next to her. All the while, it rains in the background. He opens his sketchbook and sketches the design of a shoe, his attention slowly intrigued by the mysterious stranger sitting next to him. The shot then cuts to the stranger. Once again, it begins with the shoes, and it works its way up to reveal her face, a face of contemplation, her eyes, a mystery. Takao keeps sketching, but a simple mistake opens a conversation.
Here.
Oh, thank you.
A moment of awkward silence follows, the only sounds being that of the rain and the garden. Takao breaks the silence.
I'm sorry, but have we met before?
No,
Right. Yeah, of course. My mistake.
it's okay.
A simple misunderstanding. A thunderclap far away in the clouds. The woman's eyes notice something. She smiles to herself. And as she gets up to walk away, she says this.
A faint clap of thunder. Clouded skies. Perhaps rain comes. And if so, stay with me.
She opens her umbrella and walks away, leaving behind a mystery as mysterious as herself. The music hits, and then the opening credits. 4 minutes and 30 seconds. That's how long the opening sequence of this movie lasts. Perhaps a bit unusually long for a movie that's only 45 minutes long. But the sequence serves a purpose. Its function to lead us to a garden, which eventually becomes the main location for the entire movie. Sometimes I feel like the opening scene of a movie is not just a preview or a hook. It's a bit more than that. Sometimes it's like a window to the soul of the movie itself. The pacing, the dialogue,
I'm sorry, but have we met before?
its cinematography, the moral dilemma, it all predicts how the movie will play out. A lot of people compare Makoto Shinkai's movies to Hayao Miyazaki's. While there are definitely many overlapping ideas and philosophies in both their works, I don't necessarily feel like they portray similar emotions or feelings. One could easily see how Miyazaki's movies are more fantastical and dreamlike, whereas Shinkai's movies, although they feel like a dream in many ways, they are more rooted in realism. I feel like his worlds are slices of reality, covered in a dreamlike artistic sleeve. And this effect is probably the most prominent in The Garden of Words, and it is with that pacing the movie begins with. The world seems real. Well, in fact, it actually is. This railway station, the streets, the park, the garden, it all exists in the real world. This opening may as well be someone's memory. It looks that real. But what makes this opening scene so perfect goes beyond all of this. I think what makes this scene a masterpiece is the artistic symbolism that it portrays. On the surface, The Garden of Words perhaps has the most beautiful visuals that I have ever seen. But underneath this elegant beauty, there is depth and meaning. And this opening scene is what sets up the rest of the story to perfection. And the artistic symbolism that I gathered from watching this opening scene over and over again are composed of three things. One is the usage of rain. Two is how it portrays solitude. And three is the symbolism of shoes. As I've said before, sometimes an opening scene serves as a window into not just the plot, but the soul of the movie itself. And it's the clever usage of these three elements at the very beginning of the story that forms the framework on which the entire story stands on. Rain is the shrouding constant of this opening scene. It shows up in the very first shot of the opening, and it follows the protagonist, with even a shot specifically to emphasize the connection of the protagonist to the rain.
When I was little, the sky was closer. So much closer. That's why I like the rain. It's like I can smell the sky coming.
Under different contexts, rain can mean different things. In literature, rain is often used to set the mood of the story. A poem that uses the phrase such as a dark rainy night is often symbolic of something ominous or negative, whereas a phrase such as a calm summer rain is relaxing and soothing, and it is often used to symbolize happiness and better days. Now this story begins with the rain, not the unwavering and destructive kind, but rather a soft and elegant type of drizzle. And these shots are quite common in the opening sequence, where the rain is portrayed as something that the protagonist welcomes into his life. And immediately, Shinkai shows that the protagonist is perhaps not happy with his life. Maybe his expectations of growing up was perhaps not how it played out in the real world. And maybe he has hopes and dreams that he wants to fulfill. To him, rain is something that keeps him alive. But this drizzle also creates a strange melancholy surrounding his character. And when we see Yukari for the first time, it almost feels like these characters are somehow connected through the rain. There is some sort of pain that resides beneath both their words, which is communicated through their environment.
No,
Right. Yeah, of course. My mistake.
it's okay.
Even Yukari's poem, or tanka, which at this point is a mystery, also has elements of rain.
A faint clap of thunder. Clouded skies. Perhaps rain comes. And if so, stay with me.
And this nicely segues into another symbol of significance in the opening scene: solitude. The way the Garden of Words is introduced in the story is quite telling of how much of a solitary environment it is. In the first couple of shots, we get a glimpse of this calm and peaceful environment, which is contrasted by the noise of the city, which is where we first find our protagonist. And through his narration, it is conspicuous that he finds himself stuck in the city, and the only real place that he finds comfort is in this isolated green haven hidden away from the city. And it only takes a few shots to reveal the withdrawn personality of the protagonist. Although it isn't directly implied, some of these shots perfectly define how Takao is someone who lives within his own little world. And when Takao meets Yukari in the garden, it's almost as if someone entered into his world, and the long pauses and the awkward silence sort of exemplifies this unusual encounter for Takao. The opening sequence does not describe the cause of Yukino's solitude, but it does give enough clues to suggest that she is indeed hiding something, even the tanka that she recites being a sort of a mysterious question. The opening scene sets up the garden as a place where two strangers who are shackled by the social norms of the world meet to have a moment of peace. But there is a kind of serendipity or a happy coincidence about this meeting. It's almost like both their individual solitudes combine in this moment to then become a shared space, a shared solitude, their words and their kindness, turning this place into a therapeutic getaway from the society. But amidst all of this, the most fascinating thing about this scene, or even the movie itself, is the number of shots that have shoes in them. It begins with a shot that shows people walking out of a train, where the attention is not on the crowd, but the methodical steps they take to get off the train. But this is later contrasted by Takao's rhythmic footsteps in a lonesome environment, perhaps creating a separation between him and the crowd. And Yukari is introduced not as a face, but once again it's her shoes that are emphasized. And the reaction to this strange meeting, Takao's shoes are the ones that tells that story. Even the vertical shot that reveals Yukari, the shot begins at her feet. But this motif is something that makes a lot of sense through the eyes of Takao, who is in fact an aspiring shoemaker. But as the story progresses, these shots become commonplace as a simple action like walking or putting on a shoe takes a whole new meaning.
I've always been here.
For different reasons, they're both stuck in their lives, and the shoes are symbolic of growth or learning how to walk again.
I'm going to make a pair of shoes that will make her want to get up and walk and find her way.
The opening scene introduces us to these three motifs. At the very beginning, rain takes the shape of a drizzle, calm and poised, just like the interaction between Takao and Yukari. Then it shows us how they cherish their solitude, away from the judgment of the crowd. And it also gives character and meaning to shoes, the most symbolic object of this movie. And this introduction is well-rounded in how it accomplishes to build on these motifs as the story progresses. The calmness of the rain that shrouds their first meeting, as the story plants the seed of a mysterious romance, is later on replaced by a heavy downpour when Takao gives the answer to the tanka from the introduction.
A faint clap of thunder. Even if rain comes not, I will stay here, together with you.
Even the faint clap of thunder in the opening is replaced by a deafening crack of thunder. Perhaps this change in character of the rain, pointing to the forbidden nature of their love. And at the end, after they confess what they truly feel about each other, the rain is accompanied by glistening sunlight as it showers them in the warmth of a new beginning. And similarly, as they learn to love each other's company, the solitude of the opening scene fades away into something hopeful. Although at the end there is distance between them, they're not lonely anymore. And finally, shots of shoes in the opening scene, which only seemed to serve an aesthetic purpose at the time, becomes more and more significant as the story moves on. Yukari was stuck in her life, not knowing how to move forward.
Stuck in the same place.
And for Yukari, Takao was the unexpected stranger who came into her life to teach her how to move on from her misery. And isn't it poetic that he happens to be a shoemaker, someone who makes shoes that protects your feet from the elements? But at the end of the day, Takao was also learning how to walk, how to move through the trials and tribulations of life. And it was Yukari who made him see this. And as he completes the pair of shoes that he promised Yukari, the shoes also complete the motif of learning how to walk again.
I realize now, I was learning to walk as well.
For a movie that is deeply philosophical, it is this opening scene that opens the window into its soul by setting up these motifs that allows us to follow along the story. And in my eyes, I have never seen an opening scene so visually striking and yet symbolically meaningful. It perfectly unifies the art with the philosophy to create something truly beautiful, to create a masterpiece of an opening scene. If you want to see more anime content, you can check out my Ghibli playlist over here.